Hello everybody, in this video we're going to take a look at equations for the first time and try to understand really what an equation is and some initial techniques of how to solve an equation. So a equation is a problem that you have to solve. If I said to you 3 times question mark is equal to 6, this is an example of an equation. It's not a very nice equation, but it is an equation, okay? We've got to work out what that missing thing is. So hopefully you're all sitting there screaming at your screens and are telling me that that question mark is equal to 2. And you would be correct, okay? And so it's about using our mathematics to work out how missing variables. But of course, in math, we don't use question marks. We're going to use our language of algebra. So a better way of writing this would be 3x equals 6. And x is our unknown. It's our mystery number. And because we don't know it, we're just going to write a letter. So it's going to be 3 times x is 6. So therefore, x is going to be 2. But I could have written 3y equals 6. I could have written 3z equals 6. I could have written 3 heart symbol equals 6. It doesn't really matter. They all mean the same thing. 3 of anything means 3 times, and the variable we're using doesn't really matter. It just is all about trying to figure out what that thing is. Okay, so hopefully in some of these simple cases, we can just work these out using mental arithmetic and the power of our brains. So let's see if we can figure out a few more in just this simplistic kind of way. So what about this? What if I said 12 plus y equals 13? Well, clearly we have to think, well, what is it that I add to 12 to make 13? Of course, our answer here is y is 1. We're trying to find out what the missing thing is. What about if I said 50 divided by y is equal to 10? Well, what is it I divide 50 by to get an answer of 10? Well, clearly in this case, y is going to be 5. So in these simple cases, you can use arithmetic to work it out. But in the following videos, we're going to have to look at more complex methods of understanding to try to find the solutions to these equations. Now, one of these is to undo certain operations. So in order to do that, we're going to need to know the opposites. So for example, if I take a number like 10 and I plus 2 to it, I'm going to get 12. So in order to work out if I started with 12 and I wanted to get back to 10, do you know the opposite to addition? I'm sure that you do. We know we've got to subtract 2. So addition and subtraction, are an example of opposite operations, and we need to know those. Another good example is going to be multiplication and division. If I started with a number and I multiplied by 3, so in this case 4, I get 12. To undo that operation and get back from a 12 to a 4, I'm going to need to divide by 3. So another example is this multiplication and division. They are opposites. Now, the final thing we're going to need to know in some certain cases is one more, and that is squaring and square rooting. So, for example, if I had a 5 and I squared it, okay, let's just write the word square, right? That means times it by itself. So that would be 25. So if I want to get from 25 back to 5, do you know the opposite of squaring a number? The answer is this symbol, square root, okay? A square root. And a square root brings me back from 25 to 5. So in some cases, you might need that relationship as well. But predominantly, most of the things are going to be with this opposites being plusing and minusing and timesing and dividing. Okay, so if you now understand what an equation is, and you now understand some opposite operations, we're ready to solve our first equations with some more challenging methods.